Alright, so this is a story about the haunted missing monk. The story is pretty much based on some true evidence that happened in southeast Tennessee in the little town of Charleston, Tennessee, kind of close to Chattanooga. And this all started back in 1867 when they had a great flood down there. I mean, the waters came up to like 60 feet, Tennessee River, and this was particularly on the Hiwassee River in Charleston where they had floods, and a lot of people got killed and unfortunately and drowned in that flood. But not too many people were killed in Charleston, but there was a train that came through there, and this train had travelers on it. And of course, it was flooded, and they couldn't see the tracks because the tracks kind of go along the edge of the Hiwassee River, which was flooded, and it had disrailed because there was some rails missing in this little ravine area, kind of where a little bit of creek came down through the town, and unfortunately the train crashed, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is a big deal now because people are dying, and a lot of them were dead, and so the town jumped in to help. But there's this doctor, the doctor uh, Bazemore, who came in and just showed up. He'd just been there almost just not even a year. And he said, "Oh my gosh!" So he jumped in and he tried to help, and he worked day and night because there was people dying, and they had to put him in a temporary morgue in the home, not the temporary morgue in the depot, train depot, because they just didn't have any more room, and he was just just all bodies laying around and people hurt, and finally, after a while, he talked, tried to tell everybody, 'cause some of them were dying, and he talked to this particular one, which was a monk. It was a Catholic monk from Baltimore, and he asked him, because he knew he was in bad shape, he's going to die. And he said, "Well, hey, you um, got any family or somebody I can try to come down here to help you?" And he said, "No, I don't have any family. I'm from Baltimore, in this, and I joined the church monk monastery to because I didn't have any family, and I'm an orphan, so I know I don't have anybody." And the doctor said, "Okay," and then later he died. So after the doctor, this happened. It went on for few years, and the doctor was practicing fine, and everything seemed like it was fine. But everybody said, "Hey, that doctor's kind of spooky. Just ever since that tragedy, he just seemed like he's not himself." And everyone said, "Yeah, I know, but you got to understand what he went through." And so, yeah, that's probably true. But then one day, this kid said, "Go get the doctor. We got an emergency here." And they sent this kid to go to his house. Say, "Hey, doctor, where you at?" And he went in the house looking around. And then when the kid looked around, he said, "Oh my gosh, there's this hooded figure, it was like a monk and hooded figure." The kid didn't really know. He said, "Well, hey, you know where the doctor's at? I need it's emergency." And it didn't move. It didn't do anything. And then it kind of just disappeared. And the kid went, "Oh God!" He starts saying, "Oh crap!" And when he started screaming out, the doctor said, "Hey, what is it?" He showed up, and when he showed up, he said, "Hey," and the kid said, "Hey, I just saw this monk-looking person with a cape, looking robe over their head and all this. And I don't understand. It just disappeared." And he said, "Oh," and he shook his head. "Oh, you okay? Well, then I'm not crazy after all." And that's when the doctor realized that he had to go confess of what happened. So he decided to actually go to the authorities and say, "Hey, I'm haunted by this. It's happening. I can't get rid of these apparitions that come to me, and now that the kids saw it, it's got to be real." But I'll tell you the story that when this monk that we had in the old train accident, he died, and he said he didn't have no family or anything. I just kind of thought in my head, well, I'll find something else better to do for his body. So I thought I would use his bones to as a display, and therefore I took his body down and hid it, and that's why nobody could find him. They all looked for him, but they couldn't find him. And I, took off his flesh and stripped it and boiled and did all this stuff, and made the skeleton that I have today. That is the actual skeleton of the monk. And he's been haunting me ever since, and shows up all the time like he's got a knife, and he's, after revenge because he desecrated his body, and he thinks, well, I'm gonna skin you too. And it's bothering me, but now I'm gonna have to confess of it. And of course the authorities understood, and they didn't actually convict him of anything. He didn't get in trouble, and they took the bones and supposedly buried him somewhere in one of the local graves. Nobody really knows where that's at of today. But later, after his practice ended, there was a Dr. McClary that came in, and this Dr. McClary had the same practice. And then later, the building and the house that he lived in, he says, hey, we're going to tear it down, do a new one. And when they tore down the building, they actually found a robe and rosary beads in the wall. And that's the way it was. And now today, they still say you can see a monk or somebody at night or around during the evening or day that's walking around the railroad tracks. In some occasions, in some of the building areas where they have the new houses. But very creepy and very haunted. But based on a lot of facts here, at least as we know it, good deal.